we're going to continue to beat this drum, Ron, because America cannot be a strong, free nation if its people do not know the truth about one of the worst events to ever happen on the soil of America. And I've been very disappointed. John Boehner, we wrote 6 letters, and that's bipartisan, and plus individually, 6 letters to John Boehner when he was the Speaker of the House, asking John Boehner to please allow us to meet our constitutional responsibility and debate war. He never even responded to the letters, much less making any type of public comment.
Here's a guy from the United States, born and raised here, goes nuts, and bombing somebody in the Middle East is in retaliation to this. Where does this come from? Explain that to me.
I think there is a kind of psychosis produced by this sense of American exceptionalism. And I think when people buy into the idea of American exceptionalism, they become incapable of self-reflection. So I think you made a great point earlier. What if the last 25 years was just a great big mistake? It's be difficult for people to face that.
That's for darn sure.
Which is encouraging.
Well, I'll tell you what really brings people around to monetary reform. It's good that we have people in the intellectual community discussing this and planning it. But ultimately what happens is they're forced to do it. The money quits working. It's like in Zimbabwe, they have to quit and do something different. And that is what will happen here. You'll have to stop. If you want to preserve what we have, you have to just stop printing money. You have to stop the spending. And there's no mood in this country for this right now. There's too much support for free stuff, and there's too much support for war stuff. And nobody's worried enough about the nature of money and why gold is important, because the most important role, or at least one of the close to the most important role, it restrains the government.
If you can, maybe explain how in a libertarian world the poor may be better taken care of than they are in a world where, as you point out, the government holds a gun to people's heads, takes our money, gives some of it to the poor, and keeps a lot of it for themselves.
Well, I think the most important thing to remember is poverty, as we know it today, is a creation of government. The poor are put out of work by regulations that make it hard for them to get into the workforce, especially as entrepreneurs. And I saw this when I rented to low-income people. I had a couple tenants who were doing sewing in their homes, their apartments, or childcare, which was fine with me. But it wasn't fine with the city government. They called me and asked me to evict them.
Yes. Next, Dr. Paul, we're going to cover, it's a very peculiar one, at least to my mind, and that's government's the moral authority to feed the poor. And it's very odd because government doesn't create anything, and everything that it has, it must first take from someone else. So to paint a picture for our viewers, imagine a mugger on the street who mugs somebody, an innocent pedestrian, and gets caught and tells the cops, but I was going to feed the poor, or feed my hungry family with this money that I stole. Now the mugger goes to jail. That's not an excuse. You can't steal to feed your family. But when it comes to government, that all gets overlooked, and somehow they've ended up with the moral authority to take money by force and feed the hungry. What do you think about this, Dr. Paul?
Well, it doesn't work, and it's immoral is what it is.